Welcome to Phrasal Verb Practice. This is the place to learn real English, one phrasal verb at a time. My name is Marissa, and I'll walk you through this learning journey. Hello, everybody. Hope you're all doing great. Today, we're diving into the phrasal verb check in. So, let's start with what check in actually means. This phrasal verb has 3 very common meanings, and you probably hear all of them in real life. First, when we say check in, one very common meaning is to officially arrive or register somewhere. The idea here is that you tell someone you've arrived and you give your information. For example, we need to check in at the hotel before going to our room. Please check in at the front desk when you arrive. Passengers must check in 2 hours before the flight. Now, there's another meaning you hear a lot, especially when traveling. We also use check in when we talk about leaving luggage or bags to be stored. For example, I need to check in my suitcase at the airport. She checked in her bag before security. You can check in your luggage at the counter. There's one more very common meaning of check-in. We use check-in when we contact someone briefly to see how things are going. It's usually quick and informal. For example, I'll check in with you later today. He checked in to see if everything was okay. Let's check in after the meeting. So, what's the main idea connecting all these meanings? Basically, with check-in, you're making contact. You're confirming your presence, your situation, or your status. Now, let's do a quick meaning check in other languages, just to anchor the idea. In Spanish, check-in is often registrarse or avisar. In French, it's s'enregistrer or prendre des nouvelles. In Portuguese, you'll hear fazer check-in or verificar. In Italian, fare il check-in or informarsi. In German, it's einchecken or sich melden. In Japanese, check-in suru or jiaoko o kakunin suru. And in Chinese, banli dengji or lianxie确认. So when do people usually use check-in? People use check-in when they arrive at a hotel, an airport, or an event. They use it when they give their luggage to be stored. They use it to confirm arrival or presence. They also use it to get a quick update from someone. And very often, they use it to follow up or show care. Let's look at a few clear examples to pull everything together. I need to check in at the hotel first. She checked in her luggage early. I'll check in with the team this afternoon. He checked in before boarding the plane. Let's check in tomorrow and see how things are going. Now let's talk a little about how check-in works grammatically. The key point is that check-in is usually inseparable. That means we don't put the object in the middle. So we say, we checked in at the hotel. I'll check in with her later. She checked in her bag. The common structures you'll hear are things like check-in plus a place, check-in plus with and a person, or check-in plus an object, like luggage. And with pronouns, nothing changes. For example, I'll check in with him. She checked in with them. All right, now let's practice. First, you're going to hear a short text from everyday life. Then you'll hear another one in a professional or office context. Are you ready? Let's start. I woke up early because today was travel day, and the first thing on my mind was making sure I didn't forget anything important. Before leaving the house, I sent a quick message to my sister to check in and let her know I was heading to the airport. She worries when I travel, so I like to check in with her whenever I can. At the airport, everything felt busy and loud. I followed the signs and went straight to the counter to check in for my flight. The agent asked for my ID, and then I had to check in my suitcase because it was too big to carry on. While waiting in line, I used the time to check in with my mom and tell her my flight was on time. After security, I grabbed a coffee and found a quiet seat. I didn't want to overthink anything, so I just sat there and checked in with myself for a moment, breathing and slowing down. Before boarding, my coworker texted me about a meeting next week, so I checked in with him quickly and told him I'd call later. When I arrived at my destination, I went straight to the hotel to check in. The front desk gave me my key, and suddenly the trip felt real. Once I was in my room, I unpacked and decided to check in with my husband to let him know I arrived safely. That evening, I met a friend for dinner. Halfway through the meal, she paused to check in with her babysitter, just to make sure everything at home was okay. On the walk back to the hotel, I checked in one last time with my family group chat. Before going to sleep, I set my alarm and smiled. It felt good knowing I had taken the time to check in with the people who matter, even on a busy day like this. Great! That was the first text. How many times did you hear the phrasal verb of the day? Now, let's move on to the second text. Monday started early because I had a flight for a client visit. I got to the airport before sunrise and went straight to check in for my flight. While waiting in line, I opened my laptop and sent a quick message to my manager to check in and confirm I was on schedule. She replied almost immediately, asking me to check in again once I landed. After I landed, the first thing I did was check in at the hotel near the client's office. Once that was done, I went up to my room, dropped my bag, and took a few minutes to check in with myself and review the agenda for the day. Before leaving, I sent another short message to the team to check in and let them know I was ready for the meeting. At the office, the meeting went smoothly, but there were a few open questions. We agreed to check in later in the afternoon after everyone had time to review the data. Back at the hotel, I joined a video call to check in with the rest of the project team. We talked through the next steps and decided to check in again the next morning to confirm responsibilities. Later that evening, I replied to a few emails and made sure to check in with a colleague who was covering things back home. She appreciated the message and said it helped to check in and feel aligned. Before logging off, I sent one last note to my manager to check in and confirm that the day's objectives were met. The next morning, before heading out, I checked in at the front desk to confirm my checkout time, and then took a few minutes to check in with the client by email. By the end of the trip, it was clear that taking time to check in regularly made communications smoother and kept everyone on the same page. Great! That was the second text, and that's all for today. Thank you so much for following this channel, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye!